Oh, I just hate technology, man. I can't get my head around it. You know what? Actually, my friend just recently purchased the new Samsung EarPods. And I don't know what they're technically called, but he said they are absolutely sensational. He said that it actually amplifies the sound that you hear. So he was laying in bed, and the story he was telling was he was laying in bed and he could hear a bird walking on the tin roof. And he freaked out because he felt like he had some superpower. Maybe he was doing that breathing thing, Lawrence.
Yeah, maybe, bro.
He's been
like
doing
maybe
that breathing thing, and now
the
he's
Wim Hof method has got him hearing shit. He's opened up his third eye, man. He can hear the other dimensions. No, like I've heard. I saw the reviews for those Galaxy Pod.
Why would that come in handy? Until like the idea of your earbuds is that you're blocking out everything else and listening to what you're playing. Why would you want to hear everything around you extra loud?
Mate, I don't know, man. It's like spy gear, isn't it? Like you know, you can
it really
sit in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, man.
How...
I heard reviews for those, and they were like, they're basically they got given the only 5-star review by some company, like non-profit company, for a wireless earbud ever or something. Because they're meant to be really, really good.
Oh yeah, to be fair, I used to be such a hater on everyone that was jumping on the sort of wireless earbuds sort of trend. I was thinking everyone just looks like such idiot. They look like Cybermen, and I just hated it. But I got a pair a little while ago to go to the gym, and like, man, it's such a revolution. All the like little niggly annoyances of the gym all the time of like just getting caught up in wires and like I used to so if you imagine doing like an overhead press, right? So like the barbell rests on your chest and you push it above your head. I would in between each rep I'd pause the music and then it would go up, and then when I bring the bar back down again, it would start the music again, and then I'd do a rep with music, and then bring it down and pause. Literally, I just go with this every week.
I've had that dumb stuff. Yeah, they're brilliant for what they are, and I've like worn a pair and been like, this is amazing, especially the gym. You're right.
Now, so we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, and then clap. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, has anyone seen Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
Please watch Lethal
I've seen the
Weapon.
one with the South African one. Is that the one?
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole way through it, they're always arguing about whether they go 3, 2, 1 and then go, or do we go 3, 2, 1 and do we go on 1?
It's always you then go. You then go. In my opinion.
I know, but he's like, yeah, but is it 3, 2, 1 and we go on 1? Just watch all 4 movies. Are some of the greatest movies ever made to television. So I just thought I'd jump in there and give you a little, a tip to watch Lethal Weapon because it's hilarious. And this is what this situation reminds me of.
I'm trying to think. 3, 2, 1. Is what I think is the way it should go.
That's the rhythm. All right, ready, boys?
Nibsy's adjusting himself, yeah?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Oh my god. Okay, no. Ready? Let's try one more time.
No, but you remember
hang on.
a bit of a delay.
Yeah,
there's going to be a delay on the camera.
Just do another one to be sure.
Nibsy, you ready?
Everyone ready?
Or should we go quiet for like 10 seconds so that you know where it is?
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello, you are listening to TW3. We are the show that highlights the world's insanities. We poke fun at those that deserve it, and we tackle the fake news that plagues us. I'm your host, Dominic Lane, and this week we are joined by Lawrence Ray.
What's up, bitches?
Live from London, we've got Greg.
Hi, everyone.
And all the way from sunny Australia, and probably not so sunny anymore, we've got Nibs.
Make some noise.
Thank you. This week on TW3, we are going to look into why telephone masts are causing problems. We'll also be looking at the second part in our long series on John McAfee and his life. We'll also be looking at taking a little bit of a deep dive into some of the laws that may have come about since coronavirus has taken force. We'll be right back after this. So I will start off with a little rant, I suppose. I would just like to say to anyone out there who believes that the telephone masts and 5G is the cause of the coronavirus, please do not reproduce. Okay, just please don't.
Strong statement.
I don't know how sincerely I can say this enough. The idea that a telephone mast somehow transmits a pathogen to a population is bonkers. I mean, it's just...
That's what I want you to think though, Dom.
I know, and the scariest part is that this is obviously... We look to tackle fake news on this show, and it's actually being spread by celebrities. I mean, I don't know if anyone picked it up, but Amanda Holden shared it to her umpteen million followers on Twitbox, and, you know... And it's actually being shared. So I don't know if anyone picked this up, but Nibs, in the UK, people genuinely think coronavirus is being caused by 5G masks. Do you know anything? Are there any kind of weird fantasies going on in Oz?
Look, not here in the land down under, no, but I have, some time ago, I seen that a man in America had actually gone to court and tried to appeal that there hasn't been enough testing to prove that the 5G network won't actually cause any health issues. Now, if this actually hasn't been studied,
I agree with that.
No tests have been done. Then how can you be so quick to slander it? Because I mean, people are always going to come up and conspire and think things that may be false, but until it's actually proven false, we can't really say that it's not the main cause. Look, I'm sure it's not the only cause, but we can't say that it has no contributing factors whatsoever.
Yeah, of course.
For me, is that COVID is clearly not been caused by 5G. That is a wild fantasy. Having said that, to say there's no detrimental health effects, I mean, you got to remember this is the government and the country that gave us asbestos for 50 plus years, that knew about the health effects and just didn't bother telling anyone, and made toys out of asbestos for children and killed many people in the process. So I think it's entirely possible that 5G has not had enough research and probably will kill a lot of us. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Maybe one of the main reasons that people are thinking this way is because China actually has one of the largest 5G networks already up and running. And the viruses seem to stem from there. So
seems very convenient to me, boys.
It does seem very convenient.
Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few around this story this week, and again, I'm part of like a neighborhood watch kind of like chat group thing, and yeah, someone on there was banging on about like, all I'm saying, guys, it seems very convenient. I posted something about a particular potential cause of coronavirus earlier, and it's been taken down, and everyone was sort of saying, sorry, what are you talking about? I said, well, I can't name it, because it will be flagged up again and it'll be taken down, but think the number after 4 and then a letter, which is towards the start of the alphabet. And I was like,
Jesus.
No.
I think one of the biggest problems is that we are quite quick to blame the media. And I mean, I've been at war a little bit with the media this week because certain things of, you read certain things. For instance, there was, I'm getting very tired of the mainstream media tweeting and sending me notifications on my telephone after every death. I mean, it's just not necessary. There was a title in the article was "Breaking News: NHS Nurse Dies." And she didn't even catch COVID-19 on the front lines. Right in the bottom of the article, like right in the belly of the article, just before it's about to sign off, it says she caught the virus while she was on holiday. Yeah. I mean, do you know what I mean? That if that's not accurate, that's because a lot of people will not read past the headlines. So you end up in this situation where you've got on the one side of the pond, you've got Donald Trump just saying absolutely everything that comes into his head.
I'm happy with the numbers.
Yeah, I'm not. This will not go away. Okay, Donald. That's good to know. Thank you, Donnie, for that.
Two big words.
Two big words. Yeah, Donald's two very big words. Yeah, he was at it again yesterday. I don't know if anyone picked up the news conference yesterday. He was absolutely gone. So yeah, anyway, you've got on the one side, you've got Donald Trump spouting every cure or whatever under the sun, and then you've got all the media who do themselves no favours in picking the same damn thing up and just spouting off. So, you end up in this vicious cycle. But yeah, anyway. Shall we go on to something a little bit happier? I think, Greg, give me one of your stories this week.
Corona linked, unfortunately, but it did bring a smile to my face. It was New York City officials. They published a guide to intimacy during coronavirus pandemic. With the advice, this is not a good time to be having orgies. Just in case you
fuck.
Damn it.
Oh,
your stuff.
God. Mate, you told me that a few days too late, man. You told me that a few days too late.
What a way to ruin a holiday.
But they have been applauded for sort of being, particularly inclusive. You are your safest sex partner. Was one of the lines.
Is that
That's
why
been getting a lot
Pornhub's
of
up
traction.
5%?
Just
in
pull
web
the ears
traffic?
up in the shower, mate.
Masturbation will not spread COVID-19, especially if you wash your hands, in brackets, and any sex toys with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before and after sex.
Give over. They did not say that.
And here's the next one. Again, I think they're just giving everyone a bit too much credit. The next safest partner is someone you live with. Having close contact, including sex, with only a small circle of people helps prevent spreading COVID-19.
Small circle. Nice.
And then we get into the real nitty-gritty. Take care during sex. Kissing apparently is the worst offender still, as COVID-19 has not yet been found in semen or vaginal fluid. Rimming, on the other hand, mouth on anus, might spread COVID-19.
Good
Right,
God.
okay.
They did
Virus
that
and
right.
feces may enter your mouth. So
I feel
guys,
personally attacked by COVID because I love a good butt, and now what am I supposed to do? Jeez, man, this is difficult. Sorry, dude.
Disinfect keyboards and touchscreens that you share with others for video chat, for watching pornography, or for anything else. It was just it's been sort of like I say, endlessly memed about on Twitter, and people have sort of. But nice that they're being sort of inclusive to everyone, and sort of just again wading their way through the absolute shit show of all fake news and all these rumours and things about COVID-19 at the moment. So it's nice just to have some straightforward advice. So check that out. I'll link it down in the show notes.
Does anyone else have a quick story? Otherwise, we'll jump into Have I Got Fake News for You and close off COVID-19 for the week.
I'll give you a quick little news story if you'd like, boys.
Go for it. Please do.
Okay, absolutely. I'll whip out a banger. Well, I can entertain you in many ways, but I'll do it in a clean, easy fashion. So what happened? Okay, it's another COVID-related story. Okay, sorry, there's not much else to talk about.
Everything is, isn't it?
At least it's a positive story. And it's nothing to do with the disease itself, okay? So the title of this story was Deer Invade London Neighbourhood During COVID-19 Lockdown. Essentially, there's videos and pictures of a pretty large herd of deer that have moved into a relatively ordinary-looking sort of London neighbourhood base. There's a lot of houses, there's a few bits of greenery, but it's not a giant park. Called Harold Hill, and essentially basically a massive load of deer have just wandered through streets and decided to go eat grass from people's lawns and stuff during the lockdown. And this makes me pretty happy because essentially the wildlife and stuff has decided, well, no one's here, it's time to come back and basically take back over everything. And it kind of just goes to show how the world would flourish without the biggest parasite on earth, human beings.
Well, it's and then also in terms of the environment, I did also see on like the opposite end of the coin, there was actually a good story this week about police in Derbyshire who poured dye, so like dye as in into a lake in Derbyshire. It was in a disused quarry in Harpur Hill, Buxton. They poured black dye in it to stop Instagrammers taking pictures of it and basically abide by quarantine rules, which I thought was fairly funny, but I'm not really sure what it achieves.
That seems a bit crazy, but
if anything, people are going to go along now for that reason, aren't they? It's like, damn it.
Well, there was.
I feel like the police have got the wrong end of the stick a little bit in some cases. Like, I kept seeing these Twitter videos of like, when you used to play Modern Warfare on your Xbox or PlayStation, it was like the AC-130, like warplane vision, black and white, and you can see heat signatures. Yeah. I'm seeing these like heat signature videos of like national parks where there's one guy just wandering along or something, and they're like, "This guy's outrageous. Does this walk seem essential to you?" And it's like, well, hold up a second. He's in the middle of bat crap nowhere. He's not gonna get the virus when there's no one around, and he's on his own in a park. So he's probably the most sensible person there is. So I don't really see. I think they're getting a bit of the wrong end of it here. Like people seem to be like, only go to supermarkets where you're likely to then spread the virus. Don't go walking in the middle of absolute nowhere. What a terrible human being you are. It just seems a little bit counterproductive to me.
All right, we're gonna go into Have I Got Fake News for You? So yeah, we'll be right back after this. So, have I got news for you? This is the game where I will list 3 stories and you have to pick out fake news story in it. This week we have 1 story, okay, that's fake, and the other 2 are true. So, story number 1 is 2 twins in India were born and they were given the names COVID and Corona. Number 2 is Walmart trousers are outselling shirts at the moment. And number 3 is that we've actually found a blood test that can check for multiple different types of cancer. So, you can hit me with your questions.
Okay. Right, questions from me. Right, number 1, unless it's fake news, I think I saw that on the news, and I think it's a brilliant idea, so I think I'm going to go ahead and say that the COVID and whatever is true. Number 2. Okay, so Walmart is selling more trousers than shirts, so it's America, so it's feasible to believe that people are just shitting themselves. It's America, it's Walmart. I've seen some questionable videos of people who shop in Walmart, so I'm happy to believe this one is entirely true. People are either shitting their pants or something like that. I can believe it's true. I can't understand why this is now happening. I can't quite get that one. I'm not wearing many tops in Brazil because it's really hot. Is that what it is? That's maybe what it is, because people don't need to go out, so they're kind of wandering around in just their trousers because it's nice and comfortable.
We're getting close.
All
right. Greg, what are you thinking?
And then the third story was what?
The third story was that we developed a blood test for multiple types of cancer. Now, to give you a little bit of the reason why I chose this one, I'll choose my words very carefully, is that I don't know if you know of a company called Theranos. Has anyone heard of it? So for Theranos,
Is it in the Avengers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Theranos was a Silicon Valley startup. Started by this lady called Elizabeth something. I can't quite remember her last name now. And she claimed to have developed a way of testing blood for hundreds of different diseases just from a finger prick. And basically the whole thing went bust when it realised that the technology didn't actually work, and actually it was impossible that it was work. So this is why I picked this story, just to make it a little bit harder for you. Okay.
Big lie. She was a psycho, man. She was absolute psycho, that lady.
She was.
Yeah, lied a lot and lost people a lot of money. Okay. I mean, I hope number 3 is true. I remember the technology was based on some element of possible truth, but it was just a bit... The fact that you could transmit it and it was all really quick and all this stuff and it could be analysed without a doctor and things was the problem. I'm going to go ahead.
I'm thinking... I've definitely heard something along the lines of story 1 and 2, so unfortunately I think I'm going to say that the last one.
Yeah.
I want to know what kind of trousers they were. What kind of trousers are they?
What kind of trousers are they?
Are they...
I mean, in Walmart you can... Yeah? In Walmart you can get some pretty decent jeans.
Guys, I've had a brainwave.
Yeah.
I think the only counter to the story is, of course, people might be buying more shirts than pants because they've got to do like conference calls and things. And
BAM! Greg's nailed it!
Is this it? I got you.
Nailed it!
Yay.
He's absolutely nailed it!
Number 2 is false.
Jesus. Okay, well there we go then. I think we can all... Does everyone have a rough idea of which one he thinks true then?
I think 2 is false. 2 is false.
Yeah, so,
2 is false.
Alright, so look, alright, I'll go through it. Number 1, which was what was one now? Sorry, I've forgotten.
The kid named Corona.
Yeah, sorry. So that is
COVID.
true. A couple in India named their children Corona and COVID. Okay, Greg, you absolutely nailed it. So basically,
yes.
In America, sales of tops have now completely shot sales of trousers. So you would think roughly sales of trousers and sales of tops or t-shirts or whatever are like the same, but they've not. Yeah. Suddenly, sales of tops have risen in Walmart because
Oh, that's funny.
more people, they reckon, because more people are doing like conference calls and they don't have to have anything on their bottom half. So they can sit there in their pants with a beer behind the computer and they can just, people literally will wear a shirt and a tie and then nothing in their pants. So it looks like they're at work. All right. And then really lovely, actually. The third story obviously is brilliant. This is obviously very, very early days. But they believe that they've developed a test that is more than 99% accurate for positive results on 50 types of different types of cancer. So this is really, really, really quite groundbreaking, and I kind of picked it because it's a little bit of an eat your heart out to Elizabeth Holmes, is her name, from Theranos, who obviously was trying to do something similar to this. Okay, so yeah, there you go.
That sounds good.
That is Have I Got Fake News for You? When we come back, we'll take a little bit of a deep dive into some of the laws that have come about since COVID-19 has come in. We'll look at another story from Greg, and we'll also finish off with some John McAfee. And of course, if you have anything that you want to talk about, you can email us at podcast@tw3media.com, or you can tweet us at TW3media. Twitbox. We'll be right back. That wasn't very good.
Alright, so welcome back. Obviously, in the midst of all this chaos, there's been rising number of stories of mispower of authority by police and by people who obviously have it. Now, we touched on some stories before from the Derbyshire police. You'd mentioned Lawrence had flown a drone over a national park trying to find people who are breaking the safe distancing rules. Now, the rules are extremely vague, and they're being updated so regularly that the public and the police are both being given different information as to what is rule and what is just advice.
Yeah.
And that's happening here as well. So people aren't really sure whether they're allowed in more than groups of 1, or is it 5, or is it 100 outdoors and 50 indoors. Things are just very chaotic, and people are struggling to keep up with up-to-date news. And obviously with the social media and the news outlets constantly posting different stories, the confusion's just through the roof. But first and foremost, I do have to say that many of the police force around the world have been tasked with such a difficult job of not only upholding the law, but upholding the new laws and the new wishes of prime ministers, presidents, ministers, whoever it may be that is in charge. So obviously they're doing what they can, but they have come under scrutiny, and there is other countries in the world where police have taken their power too far. If any of our listeners do have any stories, or if they've seen anything, feel free to email us at podcast@tw3media.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you about these issues.
Absolutely, yeah. I do. Nibs, didn't you told me something about Australia, how they had snuck in some powers in the coronavirus bill. Do you have anything on that?
Well, they didn't sneak in any powers, but what they did do was they wanted to start mining for gas in the Gippsland regions of Victoria. Now, this had been protested against for many months, and it had been approved recently under the cover of COVID-19. And because the media outlets are so swamped with COVID news, they're not getting to report on other very, very important issues, which is quite concerning, because most people are stranded at home, and they're looking to these news outlets, these big news outlets, to provide them with information about things that are happening not only nationally and worldwide, but locally.
Yeah, absolutely.
You realise that the UK passed a coronavirus bill towards the end of March.
Something to do with mental health, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things where, and I don't want to be a fake news spreader, so I'm not going to give a load of detail because I haven't fully looked into it. But I know there was making rules more lax for like elderly and disabled people, so councils and stuff don't really have to make as much of an effort with like mental disabilities, elderly people, physical disabilities. So I know there was something about that, like there's less money and effort they have to put into that side of things. But I also, the thing with me that I worry about is that with coronavirus, and this is one of my first concerns. Don may know I'm a bit of an obsessive person when it comes to privacy, security, and human rights to a bit of a lame degree. I'm one of those guys who read the book 1984 and decided that, the entire world was out to get me.
It's all right, Lawrence. I'll hack you later.
Yeah, but like I'm very obsessed with like what is technically right and wrong, and it's always been the way since I was a little kid. It used to get me in trouble. And obviously the thing with this is that if they can bring in laws that you can't go out, you can't do this, etc., etc., they're basically eroding any sort of civil liberties we have. And I wouldn't be surprised if this keeps going on, that you get laws that the police can just stop and search you without any prior belief, or they can come into your home without any reason or any warrants or anything like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if that does happen. I know there's things that a lot of people who are dying, because one of my family members died of coronavirus this week, and they can't have a funeral and they can't be buried like they wanted to be. So they have to be cremated, apparently.
Okay.
And that's apparently due to a new law that means basically it doesn't matter what your religion says, you're getting cremated, which I get it, but it's another thing that we're now losing as a choice of ours for when we die. So I'm not a big fan. I can see governments using this as an excuse to just pass bills that will turn us into modern day China. Fuck China, fuck the government, fuck Boris.
Okay, thank you for that, Lawrence.
No worries,
along
guys.
the lines of where is the line, or where do we draw the line, and whatever. In Australia, the big famous one that came out this week, I think, was that a man was fined $1,000 for eating a kebab on a park bench alone. Did you hear about that?
No, what happened?
I didn't.
And there's this gold video of the governor of the state. Or how does it work in Australia? Anyway, but he was being interviewed on it, and sort of the man from the press that made the point that, I mean, so where do we draw the line? Like, he says the man was out for a run and he just stopped to have a kebab. And this governor is like breaking down and saying, like, I find it hard to believe that the guy was out for a run. He stopped midway to have a kebab on the park bench. And then it just like he realised how stupid the whole situation is. Where he says, like, I mean, I'm not saying you can't have a kebab midway through your run, but we're just like, just guys, stop taking the piss. Like, you can't be out in groups. Like, we're just, we have to make these rules to protect everyone. So it's like, it's funny. I'll link the video to it. But,
Stop the
If
madness.
the guy was alone having a kebab, what's wrong with being alone having a kebab?
So the thing about this guy in particular was that he was warned like twice earlier in the day that, okay, like, you need to go home now, like you've been out for your exercise and whatever. And then he was found later that day. I get the need for they need to lay down like a strict sort of like, okay, this is the point where like you're doing something that's wrong. I think all these rules are just like, guys, just don't take the piss. Like, yeah, fine, you can go out for a run. Like, I'm not saying do that, but so why do people need to be like, okay, but can I go out for a run with my friend? It's like, why are you just like pushing the boundaries of it all? Just use your common sense. Stay at home if you can. That's what the rules are. Why?
Alone. Stay alone or with whoever is in your house that you're self-isolating with. So if you want to go for a walk with your partner you've been self-isolated with, go for a walk with your partner. If you want to go for a walk with Davy John from 3 miles away, your mate from school, don't go for a walk with him because he might have the virus, you fucking idiot. Simple.
This is why people are just clamouring for more and more clarification. It's just like, just use your bloody head. Like,
Yeah.
In ways I do fully agree with you, but then in other ways, if you think about it, they haven't stopped the workforce over in Australia. So people who work in offices, in building blocks, that work's been discontinued. So people have been asked to work from home, and they're obviously the ones buying these shirts and not trousers. But for us, when we work in construction, we're still on a job site where we may have 10 to 15 to 20 trades on site, and the problem is they're telling people, you can't go for a run, or you can't do this, you can't do that. But then they're still sending people to work amongst others, and you can't really keep a safe working distance if you're trying to lift a heavy object. So everything's kind of contradicting, and there's just a lot of confusion. So this guy obviously is taking the piss when he's going for a run and having a kebab. Like, 1, why are you eating a kebab if you're running? And 2, why are you doing it 3 times a day? Like,
that's what I mean. Like, people are just trying to find ways around the rules. It's like they're there for your safety.
Yeah.
I feel like these people wouldn't be so keen to go outside if there wasn't a lockdown on. Do you know what I mean? Like, they quite happily sit at home all the time. So now there's a lockdown. It's like, but I must leave.
Everybody wants to get outside. Everybody wants to go for runs.
Yeah.
No, everyone needs a kebab, mate. Everyone needs a kebab from time to time.
All right, we've got to move on, guys.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. We've got to move on. Greg, you've got one more story, haven't you?
Still coronavirus linked, of course, because everything is. But here's a headline for you.
We try for you guys. We really, really try.
Astrophysicist gets magnets stuck up nose while inventing coronavirus device. An Australian astrophysicist has been admitted to hospital after getting 4 magnets stuck up his nose in an attempt to invent a device that stops people touching their face. He told The Guardian Australia, I have some electronic equipment, but really no experience or expertise in building circuits or things. I had a part that detects magnetic fields, and I thought that if I built a circuit that could detect the magnetic field and we wore magnets on our wrists, then it could set off an alarm if you brought it too close to your face. Pretty good, fair enough. I suffer from I touch my face, I feel like quite a lot, especially now I'm...
Yeah, I think everyone is now, aren't they?
Yeah. However, the academic realised the electronic part he had did the opposite and would only complete a circuit when there was no magnetic field present. So he accidentally invented a necklace that buzzes continuously unless you move your hand close to your face. He then placed 2 magnets inside his nostrils and 2 on the outside. But unfortunately, when he removed the outside magnets, the 2 inside stuck together.
Oh.
Unfortunately, the research... Yeah. He then attempted to use his remaining magnets to remove them. Bright idea, to try and use more magnets to get out the magnets that were then stuck up his nose. Unfortunately, every time he brought the pliers close to his nose, his entire nose would shift towards the pliers, and then the pliers would stick to the magnet. It was getting a little bit painful at this point. So he eventually decided that he had to go to the hospital and try and get them removed. When they did manage to get the 3 out from the left nostril, the last one fell down his throat. But
oh, Jesus.
Thankfully, he was able to lean forward and cough it out. But needless to say, he claims that he's not going to play with magnets anymore.
Jeez.
Yeah. All right. Thank you
that
very
much.
One
of those sex stories gone wrong. That does, doesn't it? Yeah, jeez.
Yeah,
Did you ever
pretty
hear about that
much.
one with the guy who went to hospital with concrete that had formed inside of his anus? It settled inside of his anus. Yeah, there's
How
a
did
guy.
he manage that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you now, boys. So essentially, he went to the hospital, said he'd fell into a vat of concrete, and it had gone inside his butt, and then it hardened. And obviously that's the problem, right? Now, obviously that is, I think, nearly impossible, unless, I don't know.
Sounds fishy to me.
Yeah, how are you going to get the concrete up your ass if you fall into it? It sounds difficult. What essentially had been happening was he was a gay guy, and his partner had basically put a funnel in his butt, funneled in a load of wet concrete, for some reason that I can't understand, and then it set in his ass for, again, some reason I can't understand why you do this. And so he had to go to the hospital, and yeah, but essentially they had to remove the lining of his butt, like the skin inside his butt.
Stop
so he has
the
a plastic
madness.
bag for an ass now. Yeah. It's a true story from like years back. I remember checking it out. Like this is a long time ago.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank you for that again, Lawrence. All right.
No problem,
So,
boys.
With that being said, I think we're about time we move on to John McAfee. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. I'll give you a quick, very, very, very brief rundown for Nibs and for the people who didn't listen last week. So, yeah, I've been doing a series on John McAfee. It's actually, my sources have been a mix of a few news websites and a video series by a guy called OKI. So if anyone wants to check out that guy, because he's been the inspiration for this series, OKI Weird Stories on YouTube. Got to give credit where it's due. But yeah, so last week, we essentially went over John McAfee, what he'd been up to in his early life. He'd basically taken a lot of drugs, pretty much every drug possible, been fired from pretty much every job he'd had, and then he paid a load of guys to make an antivirus software, sold that, took over 67% of the antivirus market, and then cashed out for $100 million, left the company. So you've got a crazy wild drug addict cashing out the company with $100 million. So that's where you left off. So... so that's what happened, right? So this is in the early 90s. I think it's 1992 he gets kicked out. So in 94, John decides to create a chat software. One of the earliest chat softwares, actually, for, again, it's quite ahead of his time, an early chat software for computers. And it had things like VoIP and like music file sharing and all sorts of pretty advanced stuff in 1994, the year I was born. And it was called Powwow. The software, which I quite like the name of that one. But anyway, either way, it didn't necessarily pan out and it didn't really go anywhere. I think it was literally before its time, to be honest, is the reason why. And then the rest of the 90s goes quite quiet for John. So John is obviously like, right, I've got 100 million, I'm going to enjoy this. Then it hits the early 2000s and he decides, fed up with being a nice, reputable human being, I'm just going to start being a bit strange and fucking shit up. So in the early 2000s, he becomes a yoga guru. And opens a yoga and meditation retreat in his 10,000 square foot Colorado Rockies mansion, basically, he's got in the middle of the nature. He then houses 200 of his loyal disciples entirely for free, and writes 4 books called Into the Heart of Truth, The Secret of Yamas, The Fabric of Self, and Beyond the Siddhis. Looking at this, and obviously you can look into this a bit more if you want, but basically it sounds like a giant cult that John McAfee started in a giant mansion. I mean, there's loads of people going for free. Sounds like one big acid trip. Yeah, it sounds like because he's known for taking bath salts, right, which are like an extremely sexual drug. Sounds to me like the guy just decided to bring loads of people in for free and have a bit of a fun time, and that sort of theme develops, trust me, throughout the story. But basically, he then later denounces his books, a couple of years later, as absolute shit, in his own words. So he sold these books and then just said, "No, they're a pile of shit," basically. And so the next bit, so basically he does this and then gets pretty bored of it, by seems, and then just goes, "Yeah, fuck it, I'm done with this." Gets a little bit more bored and decides, "I'm going to invent a sport," as you do when you've got millions of dollars. So he then goes, right, he calls it aero trekking. Essentially, you guys know what microlights are, like the little glider things with motors. Yeah. So basically it's microlighting, but it's slightly different. He builds 4 airplane hangars, a villa, cafe, lounge, and then puts his vintage car collection all in this one area. So it makes this basically this fuck-off giant airport for microlights. Then builds 8 airports connecting New Mexico to Arizona, right? So we're talking quite a lot of a massive setup here. He's built I think eight entire airports, one of which has his entire life in it. That then has a bit of an issue because his 23-year-old nephew then flies into a canyon wall with a 60-year-old student and dies. And it turns out his nephew didn't have a pilot license or any real license whatsoever, or any experience in flying a microlight. Yeah, he was teaching the 60-year-old how to do it. So John McAfee gets himself hit with a wrongful death lawsuit. And we're going to finish there for this week. You're starting to get the development of Mr. McAfee as yoga guru, maybe sex pest, maybe drug addict, decides to create an extreme sport, then kills a few people, and goes, shit, wrongful death lawsuit, here's coming his way. So we'll leave it there, but you're getting you start to get the idea. Yeah, we're building the story here that, trust me, gets ever more wild as it goes along, and you're getting the earliest sort of idea of this. So there you go.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you.
Sounds like an extremely interesting guy.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
It gets a lot more interesting, boys. Don't worry.
Yeah, Nibsy, do you have good news to finish us off this week?
I do have a few good news stories to finish.
Brilliant.
Off this week.
Okay.
Yes,
so, unless anyone's got anything further to go, then we will close things off with the good news of the week. No? Take it away, Nibsy.
Please, Nibs.
Okay.
60 seconds starts now.
Nationwide, kids have started colouring in driveways with chalk to brighten the mood around neighbourhoods. This has gone viral.
Woo! Yeah!
Students at the University of South Australia may have a vaccine ready for human trials in 4 months for COVID-19. Meanwhile, their neighbours right here in Melbourne, Monash University students and researchers have found a drug commonly used for head lice is able to kill COVID-19 virus cells in a petri dish in under 48 hours. So 2 breakthroughs in Australia at once. Despite the tensions between Russia and the United States, Russia has sent cargo planes full of medical supplies to the US to aid relief. Some news from your homeboys. The James Dyson Company has designed a ventilator in 10 days to combat shortages in the UK, with plans of donating 5,000 of them to hospitals in need.
Yay!
James Dyson.
Awesome.
I'm gonna end the good news on this one because I think this one is very, very nice. A Chinese company has shipped crates full of respirator masks to Italy, with beautiful poetry from a Roman philosopher displayed on them, reading, "We are waves from the same sea, leaves from the same trees, and flowers from the same gardens." That's your good news for the week.
Oh,
Thank you very
lovely.
much.
Well done, Chinese companies.
All right,
Good
guys,
job.
you have been listening to That Was the Week of
Whoa, wait a sec. We haven't done a Donald Trump quote of the week, Dom.
Every week we have this problem.
Where's the Donald Trump?
Where's the Donald Trump quote of the week, Dom?
What saying this week?
Shit.
Yeah, Dom, what are you doing, mate? God. Dom, I saw on your OneNote a Donald Trump quote of the week, so I assumed you had this one covered this week.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, so basically, there's actually this brilliant article on the New York Times, which we'll link obviously in the description below, It's an absolutely fantastic timeline of all of Donald Trump's quotes. And I mean, I'll just quickly scroll down and pick one. This is a very courageous virus. It's incredible, but it's something we have tremendous control of. That was the week that was. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you next week. If you have anything that you want to add, please do email us in at podcast@tw3media.co.uk or at TW3media on the Twit box. I'm Dominic Lane, Lawrence, Greg, Nibs. We all thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Remember, kids, stay inside, don't take drugs. Peace.
And no sex orgies.
No, definitely no, and definitely no rimming.
Maybe just have
no rimming at all.
Have video call sex orgies like we're doing right now. We're gonna have one literally in a second. See you later, guys.
That's
anyway,
true, actually. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. All right, boys. Take care.